I'm 35, and I have seen firsthand how technology has revolutionized our lives. I started university in 1999, which was the year that the music file sharing site Napster was launched. But I've also seen how technology has revolutionized our relationships. Now, I started dating in 1998, and I remember calling in response to a personals ad in the Corby Evening Telegraph. Now, for those of you who know me, I'm actually gay, and at the time I wasn't out to my parents, so I left this message which involved saying, if a woman answers the phone, can you say that you're my friend? So my parents didn't find out that I was gay at the time. Now, I met my first boyfriend the old-fashioned way, which was in a bar. And I was single in the mid-2000s, and I learnt about the wonderful world of Gaydar at the time, which was an internet dating website. And more recently, I've forayed into the wonderful world of Grindr, which is an experience in itself. Now, technology has revolutionized our relationships, and I've seen that firsthand in my own life and those of my friends. It's changed the way that we meet with other people, the way that we organize our relationships, and even how we end them. Now, I'm the chief executive of Relate, the UK's largest relationship support organisation, and you might have some assumptions about my organisation. That we only work with married couples and that we only work with older people. And that's just not true. And in fact, what we're actually seeing in the counselling room today is the impact of technology. Whether it's couples coming to our services because one of them has connected with a childhood sweetheart through Facebook and had an affair. Whether it's a digital affair, whether people haven't actually met in person, but messages have been discovered on a mobile phone. Or whether it's because somebody's addicted to online pornography and that's caused issues in the relationship. Now, our history as an organisation is one of change. We responded well to the sexual revolution of the 1960s, or the rise in divorce after the 1969 divorce law reform. That's our history. And my talk today is informed by this experience from the counselling room. Now, it may surprise you to know that 62% of our counsellors say that technology has had a negative impact on people's relationships. But we tend to see couples when it's gone wrong, and those consequences that we haven't imagined have been realised as a result of using technology, because we often rush to use technology without thinking through the consequences. And that 62% stands in contrast with the general public, where only 13% of people say that technology has had a negative impact on relationships. And we're trying to think through how we help people in this new digital age. What information and support people might want to help them navigate this very rapidly changing world that we're all living through. So I want to talk to you today about 4 ways that technology is changing our relationships. First of all, I want to talk to you about dating. Now, when I started dating in the 1990s, it was a very different world. And today, our dating lives have been revolutionized by technology. There are more than 1,400 dating sites in the UK alone. And millions of us around the globe are connecting with new people through online dating. And that's been a good thing. There's much more choice available to us. The village is bigger. We're living in a global village to find people. So if you're a member of the Green Revolution and you want to meet somebody who's an eco-warrior, there's a dating website for you. If your sexual peccadillo is rubber or leather, there's a dating website for you as well. There's increased choice. And as I said, that's brought many benefits, but it's also brought some challenges. In some ways, there may be too much choice for us in our dating lives. How do we know this person is the one? Because there's always that callback to Tinder or Grindr or the dating website. We might find someone better. And in our culture of the internet, we live with a world of immediacy and that hook from the new. And that rubs up against the challenge that most of us actually do want, the connection that comes from being with one person, that love and cherish and care that comes from a connection with one person. And through a dating website, it's very hard to find whether that person is going to give you the ingredients for a successful relationship, which are honesty, commitment, and communication. Those are the top 3 ingredients for a relationship. And moreover, the point I want to make is in this swipe generation, when we swipe on Tinder, are we not in danger of commodifying each other? I tend to think of those things as a bit like ordering takeaway. This evening I'd like a pizza, and I quite fancy a twink this evening, or a bear. It is a bit of commodification, and that's my message, is for us to think about this. And when I talk about technology, technology is new, but the behaviours are the same, and technology is allowing us to behave in different ways. So what about how we organise our relationships? Well, couples tell us that staying connected to their partner is a great thing. Being able to send messages and emails and tweets to each other through the day is a positive thing. And technology has brought a huge benefit for us in that we can stay connected to people around the globe. A friend of mine is a grandmother. She lives in England. Her grandchildren are on the Gold Coast in Australia. They stay in contact through Skype, and that's a positive thing. The world is smaller. We're not relying on those letters to go through the post anymore to stay in contact. But it's also brought some challenges as well. Whilst we're the most connected generation of people who've ever lived on this globe, we're not necessarily less lonely or less isolated. In fact, young people today are the group who are second most likely to be lonely and isolated in their lives. And having 1,000 followers on Twitter or 1,000 friends on Facebook doesn't replace the contact and the love and the nurture that you get from real-world relationships. And I'm not talking here about any relationship, I'm talking about good quality relationships, because it's the quality of relationship that give us the benefits for our personal well-being and our life satisfaction. We're increasingly dependent on our smartphones and our technology. And that's also brought some challenges for us as well, in that we struggle to switch off. 4 out of 5 people check their smartphone within 15 minutes of waking up. And most people would rather give up alcohol, and including a third of people would rather give up sex than their smartphone. Now, one study from Essex University found that having a smartphone in the room when you're talking to your partner can, even if no one's checking it, can impact in your ability to have an empathetic conversation with that person, and also the sense of intimacy. So even having the technology in the room can impact. And if we're so busy taking selfies of ourselves and posting them online, are we actually enjoying the time with the people that we're taking the picture with? One of my favourite statistics, though, and I can't quite believe this, but I'm going to share it anyway, which is 9% of us even admit to checking our smartphones during sex. I'm not going to ask you to put your hands up if you've done that. Which brings me nicely on to how we end our relationships. And technology has facilitated us to have lots of opportunities, more so than in the past, to have affairs. And 1 in 4 of us in a couple relationship admits that we've had an affair, which has actually gone down over the past 10 years. Less people seem to report they're having affairs these days. But it's also increased our chances of getting caught. Now, on the screen is Noel Biderman, who was the founder of the dating website Ashley Madison. And Ashley Madison was a dating website for people who were married who wanted to have an affair. And their strapline was, "Life is short, have an affair." Now, there are reported to have been 1.2 million users of this site in the UK alone. And Cambridge has the prestigious award of having the most users per head of population, almost 6,000. It's also the city that has the most sex in the country as well, but that's a different story. Now, that's reported. There is some questions about whether that's accurate, but one of the things that the analysis of that data has shown is that's mainly men. So that's an awful lot of men in our country who are using Ashley Madison. Now, when that data was leaked by hackers, our call centre was overwhelmed with calls from people who said, "I never expected this to be public. I thought that my contact details, the fact that I was a member of this site, would stay private." And they were concerned about what happened to their photographs and the flirty messages they sent through. And we were asked, how do I tell my partner that I've used Ashley Madison? So what we do online doesn't necessarily always stay online and private. Now, the other aspect of affairs is that there is a blurring of the boundaries about what is an affair and what isn't an affair today. We used to think of an affair as a physical contact with another person outside of our couple relationship. But what about sending flirty messages through Snapchat or Facebook? Is that an affair? What about sending sexualized images of yourself, naked selfies to somebody else, or your fantasies? Is that an affair? Now, the next big innovation that we see in the porn industry is virtual reality porn, which is having sex with somebody else, but it's getting quite close to, is that an affair? And there are even prototypes in development today of sex robots or sex bots. Is that an affair, having sex with a robot? I do imagine the possibility that in the future, Relate will see a client, a couple coming into the counselling room where it's the husband, the wife, and the sex robot's the third person. That is a possibility that we see in the future. Because technology, we've always had affairs, but technology is allowing us to do it in new ways. The behaviour is the same, the technology is new. So the fourth aspect I want to talk about is around privacy. Now, privacy, Mark Zuckerberg said, privacy is no longer a social norm. And in many ways, our privacy is under assault. And the boundaries between our private family and couple life and our public life is increasingly blurred by social media. And I want to talk about that in two ways. First of all is that we share a huge amount of our family life online. Christmas was awash on Facebook of pictures of happy couples and happy families with the giant turkey and the huge pile of presents and the wonderful life. But in many ways, that virtual self is increasingly disconnected from the real self, what actually happens in the real world. Because we post the good memories, the good pictures, not necessarily what really happens. Our busiest day of the year is the first full Monday back after Christmas. Because we know that for many people, Christmas can actually be a really difficult time, and it can bring to the surface challenges in couple relationships and in family life. But we don't post about that on Facebook so much. We tend to post the positive pictures. And there is some evidence to show that that virtual life is creating additional anxiety and guilt for us in society. Now, the second aspect of privacy I want to talk about, and I should mention that this is a picture of a bin in central London. And this bin, there was a dozen or so of them in the city of London. And they were smart bins. They were fishing for your data. And people weren't realising this. This is around the Bank of England. And when you walk past it, it's picking up data from you. So privacy is under assault. But the second part I want to talk about privacy is around parenting and our partners. Today, parents face a choice. Do you put privacy controls and a snooping app on your child's mobile phone so you can see where they are all the time? I think what I was doing at 16, I was drinking in bars. Of course I was, and clubbing. I probably wouldn't be able to do that today in the same way because my parents would have known what I was up to rather than seeing me at 1 o'clock trying to look like I wasn't drunk at 16 or 17 coming home. Now, the other aspect of that is that, yes, you can install privacy controls, but we know from the internet and from around the globe that bright young people find ways around those privacy controls, not least through sharing information through text messages or through Snapchat. And also young people will be able to see content on their friends' iPads or mobile phones. So you can't close the door entirely. And the other aspect of this is that for partners today, we used to check the pockets of our partners, some of us did, and look for the lipstick on the collar or the smell of the cologne on the dress. Today you can potentially install a snooping app on your partner's mobile phone, throwing up huge ethical, legal challenges for you. So to finish then, technology is here to stay. And there is a danger of blaming technology and blaming it for all these problems when it's actually our behaviour that we're talking about and how we use the technology. And it has brought huge benefits. This is a picture of my best friend Lloyd at his wedding 2 years ago. Now, Lloyd is from South East London and his partner Paul lived in Cork at the time. And their first date was at Gatwick Airport where Lloyd picked up Paul because they met online. And their experience and their story is synonymous with thousands, if not millions of people who've drawn huge benefits from technology, and we mustn't forget that. And we're very much at the sharp end of seeing how technology is impacting on people's relationships. Now, my nephew Theo, who is going to be 1 soon, his experience of technology when he's my age will be very different. You know, he'll have access to technologies that we can only imagine today. But many of these challenges around relationships will continue at that time. So I want us to learn to use technology in better ways, that it supports those good quality relationships. And I want Relate to also learn about how we can help people to navigate the challenges. Because technology has brought benefits, but it's also brought these consequences that we don't always are aware of. So I want us to learn how we have better relationships through technology and navigate those challenges. And as an organisation, we'll continue to support people, as we've done for the past 78 years as we go forward. Thank you for listening.